And welcome back to another edition of Running with James. I'm your host, James Wyatt. Today we are joined, as usual, by Lauren. And if you can tell, Rocky's not here.
Oh,
he's been replaced.
Yeah, got a new personality.
New
We told y'all we were going to fire him.
I've been telling these guys all year long they better get their acts together or they're out. So Rocky had his chance. He's done.
Oh.
So just playing. So Rocky had to step out today, but it's okay because we had a guest anyway. So this is Kyle. Kyle is from Project Zero.
Yep.
So we partner with them for an event we have coming up on Memorial Day. So I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of bring him in. We could talk about what Project Zero is, kind of his background, kind of talk about what the event's going to look like, and then whatever else we talk about. So first of all, Kyle, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. It was a really short invite, but I live like right down the road, so it makes it really easy.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. It's perfect. So that tells me that it's also perfect for you, right, to come work out with us. Right,
yeah,
so because you live just around there, you have no excuses.
Give me time as long as it's not between 6:30 and 7:30.
Perfect. We have a 5 a.m. class.
Yeah. He's
like,
as long as it's not from
from
like 3 in the morning till 4 o'clock the next day.
I have
no big deal.
I had set so many because you'll get so much time with your kids, right, until they grow up. So like morning time, we get up, make breakfast, and do lunches, and we have our time to drop them off. And I've like made that non-negotiable. Like when we go to jiu-jitsu, people are like, "Go to the 6 a.m. class." I was like, "I can't." I like try to call you out for it, but anything after that window, and then when they get home, that's been really important to me ever since they started school to do that. Yeah, I'm open to whatever else you got. Lunchtime, we
have a lunchtime class actually.
Yeah, lunchtime
class. Several. So but no, I think that's awesome, man. I mean, I fortunately get to see my daughter all day, every day, and my wife as well.
Yeah.
So there's a school here or what have you, and so my daughter goes to school and my wife's a teacher. So the gym is here. My wife is here.
Yeah.
My child is here, and then pretty much Saturday and Sunday because there's a church here. We're here as well.
Y'all literally see each other 24/7.
Yeah. So it's funny because there's a couple days a week I'll have to like go downtown or go to the med center and I do classes and stuff and I may be gone a few hours, and it is nice to walk in the door.
Yeah.
And my daughter looks at me and she gets excited because she hasn't seen me in 3 hours, right? Which is weird because you'd think she'd be happy that she hasn't had to deal with me for 3 hours, but that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I've really something that's been really important that's come up lately is how do we keep our family tight knit and just stemming from like how me and my wife grew up. It's been super important for us, and it's also an example for what we do in the organization too. People interacting with their kids. Yeah, well, we can get into that at some point. But
no, for sure. So first of all, we have an event coming up Memorial Day from 8 to 11. So we're calling it HYROX Heroes Circuit.
Yep.
Yes.
Right. We've decided on that for sure. That's the name of it.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it works.
I hope so. It's on the poster. It was a little late to change it.
Yeah. We printed everything already.
Yeah. So basically it's just going to be kind of a fun event, right? A little bit of a competition to it as well. We'll have a singles event, got a doubles event. We've got some stuff for the kids. The kids are going to be able to compete. And the whole point is just to get people moving, right? Get people connected. Obviously, it's going to also support a really good cause with Project Zero, and you can register right now. So it's not even that expensive, right?
No, I think what do we set the price at? It's $25 for a solo, $45 for a partner, and then students that are 13 to 18 are $10.
Yeah, I think.
Then kids 5 to 12 are free.
Yeah, so I mean that should be a pretty good incentive to get out there and get active, right? So, and so if you've ever done one of our events before, like our Building Champions events or what have you, it'll be very similar to that. Yep. So we'll do like some waves, very HYROX-esque as well. So we're kind of combining. We're really working with HYROX to really kind of expose the community to what HYROX really is. So it's basically just you run a little bit, you do some exercises, you run a little bit more.
That easy.
That's just that simple, right? So we're going to give people kind of a taste of that. And I think it's going to be fun. We're going to do it outside. So it'll be at Klein Kane Stadium.
Yep.
So that'll be fun. So we're actually going to incorporate some bleachers.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, we are. So it's going to be a lot like even Sunday Fun Day. So we do a thing every Sunday that we call
like super laps.
We've always called it Sunday Fun Day, but it's basically like the
HYROX Run Club.
And
that was my doing.
It's
I take pride in that.
Okay. So anyway, so we do a myriad of different things just depending on what we're training for, but it'll be a lot like that. So I'm excited about it. It's gonna be a lot of fun, I feel like.
Yeah, I think so. When I shared the events to people who were asking, that signed up from the organization, like they were waiting. I think I kept pinging you about it too, and you finally like, all right, this is it. One guy's doing an event 2 days before, and then going to come into this, and he's like, I'm not going to be ready, but it'll be a lot of fun. But what I really liked about it, it's super functional where you can include so many other people versus some of the other events that we've done before. Won't name anything, but
yeah, sure.
But you can include a lot more people into it, and kids, students, families, and that's more of our jam for what we promote. So yeah, I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah, and I was telling one of my athletes what have you, because she was asking me about. She just finished running the London Marathon, right? And so she did a HYROX relay last year or whatever, and so she wanted to do the whole thing, but she was like, well, you think because she's a little person, right? So she was a little concerned, will they work with me, will they do like adaptive athlete kind of stuff? And so HYROX is really good, I feel like, because it's really accessible for most, like 99% of the population. It's accessible because the only difference really is everybody can push a sled or everybody can do the movements. It just may depend on how long it's going to take you to do it, right? But they have been really cool about like working with like adaptive athletes and adapting some of the movements to make them more accessible for more people. So they've done some amputee stuff. They've done some people that were in wheelchairs. I think she pushed the sled.
She did push the sled.
The relay,
yeah,
so they lowered the weight a little bit for her. So so I think she's going to come out and do it. She said so. I was, and she was a little, I don't know, maybe worried. But she was like, "No, you're gonna have to change." I was like, "Nope, everything we're doing, we don't have to change anything. Yeah. You can do it all."
Is her sister going to come do it with her?
No, her sister's in Washington, so she lives there.
She should come down anyway.
Okay, I'll let you.
I'd love to see her.
Like pay for the ticket to fly down, everything. Hey,
I didn't say that.
It's only $25, right?
but the ticket to entry is $25.
It's $25 or $45 if you do it as a team,
and you get to hang out with us.
Yeah, that's it.
It's memories.
It's worth the money.
It's worth the memories.
So, Kyle, I'm actually a little curious about this. Like, so, I mean, obviously, we've talked quite a bit and about what what Project Zero is all about, and I'm a big fan of it, the concept, because I mean, it's really what we're trying to do here with everybody in general. But kind of tell us about what Project Zero is, kind of what brought it together, what's your background, kind of let's kind of cut that up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't like we'll just throw a dart at the dartboard and figure it out.
Pick one.
Yeah, we can start with the core of what Project Zero is, or actually what it's become. So initially, several of us worked for different organizations or volunteered with different organizations, and we were all vets. So everybody who was in the original board were all veterans, and the concept of wellness is just something it's very broad and painted with a broad brush. And so at the time, and we still have this, there's different statistics that are out there on veteran suicide, and part of to combat that is wellness. So like, what are the practices that we have to build a community and a sense of self? And some of those are like, I've been through different development courses to figure your strengths and all these other things, but one thing that really kind of stuck out to us was like, how do we interact with one another, and how do we do things that, listen, I love volunteering and I'll keep doing that. But at the same time, like, how do we kind of pull back a little bit and get back to ourselves and kind of interact as a community without any expectation? And so that was something that was super important. So when we started Project Zero, it was based on that. Like, how do we kind of keep a connected web of people together and doing things that are productive for them, for their community and their families? And that was the concept, and that started in like 2020. So
great time to start stuff.
No idea what we're going to do once March 2020 hit.
Yeah.
And the first thing that we really did, it was the outdoor program that you see now. So if you see anything posted of what we do outdoors, that was like the first iteration. We wanted to do a lot more too, incorporating mental health, but really we kind of hit on the social wellness. If you don't know, self-isolation in people who are struggling with things like PTSD or depression or anxiety is a big thing. So we wanted to combat that. So people were isolating and forcing to be isolated. So we took them outdoors, and we did our first trip into Colorado. I think we talked about that before we came on. And from there, everything just kind of spun together. And what I understand is you can only do a number of things really well. So I've worked for organizations where there's like 10 things on a table. With Project Zero, we stick to 3, and it's mental, physical, and social wellness. We've launched 2 successfully, and the other one's kind of like been up and down. I think we'll end up working on that at some point. So the social wellness was the outdoor program. How do we stay connected with our community, our peers, our family, and provide those activities that kind of enrich and engage your life. So we do like overlanding, off-road, camping, surf fishing, and that's about it. We don't get into the hunting area because it's just not something we specialize in, but these are multi-day activities with families or just veterans or just first responders. It just depends on the event. And then the mental wellness, we actually have a cost-free and confidential mental health program that we sponsor to Greater Houston area veterans and first responders, military members. And that kind of spun out of just a need when we were interacting with people.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I'm waiting at the VA for community care for 6 months. And I'm like, well, what if you could talk to somebody tomorrow? And that just spun that as the essence of several conversations. And so we put that together. It goes, it's up and down, it just depends. But, I think having that option on the table where nobody has to trade insurance, EAP, they don't have to do a sliding scale. They can just show up, get care. That was super important. I know I would have liked that when I was going through things, instead of having to find a counselor or submit to the VA. So that was great. And then the last piece is something we kind of started last year, was the physical wellness. It's like, how do we get people moving, and how do you feel a lot better? Well, not when you're doing it sometimes, but after an intense run or walk or workout, or my favorite's the rower or jujitsu, like those are my two things that I love. After that, it's a mood boost, right? And I mean, there's a lot of science behind that. Sure. But that was the other thing we've been trying to get going, and we've been kind of stuttering. And I think this is also an opportunity. Like, we just saw this is a perfect way to just maybe relaunch. I don't know. We'll figure that out. We're talking with we got like Mercedes, right?
I love my Mercedes.
Like, what can we do somewhere after this in the future? But that's basically the core. We could probably go into like all the fundamentals about that, but the core of that was, how do we do wellness and do it really well?
Yeah.
And I think that in itself, it's not the only thing that saves lives, but it's one aspect that we focus on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other programs out there that specialize in substance abuse, and they specialize in homelessness, and those are great. But I think if we kind of condense ourselves in, that's what we are and who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, those are all important. I mean, for the most part, I mean, you're talking about, I've always found that it's better, at least from my experience, that it's better to like head off an issue before it becomes an issue.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Like, if you can create community, if you can create stability, and, give emotional, moral support, right? Develop the habits of physical fitness, stuff like that, before it's too late, right? You can kind of help people like not deal with some of the things that they might and ultimately deal with.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm a big proponent of that. And, I assume that a lot of these guys that you're dealing with and ladies that you're dealing with, especially if they're veterans, right? Yeah. And I mean, most first responders, like a large portion of first responders were also veterans.
Good. If I remember talking, and somebody from that I know in HPD is going to quote me on this, but I believe it was like 30 to 40% of their police force were veterans, veterans. And Dan's going to listen to this, because I'll probably point at his direction and be like, no, dude, it's this number. But there's a good portion that go from one service to another. Right. It's just a calling. People love,
and it's a natural fit, right?
Yeah, it's a natural fit.
Yeah.
I think you actually headed onto something, and I want to touch on this point. So we talked earlier. I'm like super open about if somebody's asking me like, "Hey, how are you doing today?" and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm not great."
Yeah.
And it's really like, it puts some people off. So when you talk about heading things off in the past, and I actually posted something about this earlier. It's I can't use our services because it's a conflict of interest, but seeing a professional mental health person is like something that is like a practice of mine now. So when you're not feeling great, it's like, oh, hey, maybe I should get in contact with my therapist again. It's something I've actively been doing for the past couple of months, because I've fallen in funks. It's kind of weird. And I think maybe even just, you can even find it when you're running even a gym or anything else. Like, the person who does something, you're susceptible to the very things that the population you work with.
Sure, because you're a human being.
Yeah, 100%. So sometimes you get feedback. They'll be like, "Oh, you?" And I'm like, well, "Yeah, but if I don't practice what I preach, then who am I?" And so that's been like one thing it's just been super important to be able to convey those things as well, right? To actually say, "Hey, you know what? I'm actually not doing okay, and this is the thing that we do, and I can put this out in the open and not feel bad about it, and I can actually be proactive." Because if you let anything go for too long, it can have a negative impact. And so I know telltale signs where I'm like, I'm not feeling too hot. All right, we'll call up the good old doc and schedule an appointment and go for as long as you need to. It's you like to call it maintenance.
Yeah,
you got to maintain. And yeah, I mean, that's an actual part, like an actual practice that I have into place, that, and sometimes I skip over it. I'm not gonna lie. It's just difficult to do that, but you're right. you can stay on top of things. You have the ability to stay on top of things or to integrate things that can have a positive impact on your overall well-being. And that's essentially, that's exactly what we are and who we are.
No, that's awesome. Well, I think transparency is key. And I am a huge proponent of like, do as I do.
Yeah.
Not just what I say, right? So I try to, for sure, like as a coach, right, as a gym owner, and I work here, or I say I work here, I volunteer at the church here, right? So I'm working with people all the time. So, I, like you just said, I don't always, like, I'm not perfect, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So there are times where what I'm supposed to be doing is not what I want to be doing, right?
Yeah.
And but I'm usually like, hey, if that happens, say something to me, right? Or point it out to me. Having that accountability, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
And so it's cool that you're doing that and that you're willing to, be honest with people and let them know when you're struggling a little bit or when you're, because that sets the precedent.
Yeah.
Right. Not that because you're the leader, you shouldn't deal with it.
I hate that word.
But because you are one of the leaders, you know that, hey, this works.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm doing it. So you can tell that because I'm doing it, that's why I'm telling you about it.
You could get with anybody that works with us, it's either on the board or volunteers, and they'll all tell you when they've been through something and what they've used. And people have different ways, but if we set the bar for transparency and we set the bar of just being able to be honest, and say, hey, it's cool. You can have this conversation with somebody if you're willing to, and you don't have to push anybody. The thing I really love about us is we're so natural. Most of our interaction comes in the outdoor program. It's like the hot thing, right? You can see it everywhere, and everybody's like, ooh, this is great because it's all over social media. It's so easy to show you cool stuff.
Like the mental health portion of things, you mean?
No, for like our outdoor program.
Okay.
But the mental health stuff you can't see. Like if I send you to a counselor, like nobody's going to see this interaction between you and
I get you. Yeah.
But if we bring people out, and we're willing, if that happens on that particular program for people to talk, and sometimes they're just, shooting a bull. Sometimes they're having a good time, and other times some people are carrying something with them that we live by example, but we don't push you to do something you're not ready to do yet. Because that can be really hard for people, is be like, hey man, I know there's a problem in there. We'll get this out of you. We're here for you, brother. Like that didn't work with me. And when we build something too, what I've really found is we build the thing that we needed. Like I've almost 100% believe in that. If I look at all the different organizations that have either volunteered with or have started, they were filling something that was missing for them. Mm-hmm. But if it's missing for you, it's probably missing for other people. And that's why all these different veteran organizations exist. And there's a complaint about that there's so many, but they're also filling a need. So it's just like, do we have one giant organization, or do we have all these organic people in the community that are trying to do something?
Well, I think it's just like everything else. Each one's going to speak to a different person, right? And a different personality.
Do people complain about there being too many organizations for this? Because that seems crazy.
All right. So it's a general.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense that people are like, oh, there's too many resources.
There's too many resources for people who really need the help.
It's can we bring everything under one roof?
Yeah.
Like, can we make it a Walmart,
okay.
Instead of, a boutique shop. And,
Got it.
Maybe for selling items, Walmart works, but when you're selling, this not tangible thing, it's super hard.
Well, I mean, part of it is like, why are there box gyms and, boutique gyms and like community gyms, and why are there, huge salons and small?
Franchises.
It's because not everybody responds. Some people want to be faceless and nameless, and they just want to be able to go in and come out. But other people want relationship. They want to feel like there's something special, or they're giving back, whatever, right? Might be, right? So I don't know. I just feel like, especially like, so you're in Houston.
Yeah,
Houston is a big freaking city. Right. So, even as big as Houston is, right. I have no earthly idea what the veteran population in Houston is, but as big as Houston is, I'm pretty sure it's large. Right. Yeah. And there's several bases and stuff in Texas. Yeah. Right. Multiple, and they're not that far away.
No.
So I'm pretty sure this is probably a big recruiting ground for the military. So, and then I know HBD is one of the largest police departments in the country.
The largest constables in the U.S. too, with Precinct 4.
Yeah, exactly. So Harris County is humongous, right? So there's and HFD, Houston Fire Department, they are humongous. They're one of the largest fire departments in the country as well. So there's plenty of opportunity to help people. So I don't feel like you could have too much, right?
No, I don't think you can. And I don't know exactly where it stems from, but I was on calls with other, like on wellness calls with other organizations, or in an organization I was volunteering with, and this is where some of the conversation goes. It's internal chatter. Everybody's like, well, hey, it'd be really great if we could bring all this in under one roof. And I'm like, but sometimes then you don't get to really pick, what you're trying to do.
Sure.
And I think sometimes the smaller organizations, just like ours, being super nimble, is that we can kind of adjust as we need to, or we can really specialize in the area that we specialize in. We're not the only organization that does outdoor stuff. I can point you to 5 or 10 easily, but we're one of few in Houston and Texas. There's other organizations that do mental health. They do it differently than we do it. That's fine. And there's other ones that do different fitness. They'll do like free outdoor groups, where we're trying to get people into an actual, work with the gym and be able to go in and create a different community. One of the most important things, I almost like glossed over this. I love the veteran community and bringing veterans together. What I really love to see is them like not separate themselves or put themselves in exile from the civilian population. And you're talking guys that have been out for like 15 years. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, we were in war, like we were literally the post 9/11, I would say GWAT, which is the Global War on Terrorism, started in 2001. Let's think about that for a minute. Like how many years ago was that?
You're talking 20 plus years ago.
So you have 20 something years.
There's people alive today that are making decisions that weren't alive then.
Their kids are in the military.
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when I look at that, you've got guys that have been out since 2004, 20 years, and some of them, for whatever reason it is, and it's totally their journey, that haven't fully adapted back. And it's not weird to think, because we've had family friends back from the Vietnam era and that were the same way.
Yeah.
It just takes you what it takes to get there. But like, how can we maybe make that a little bit easier? What I found with like the outdoor and the overland stuff is like everybody can connect outdoors and everybody can do that. And what I found with fitness is like you have this like shared experience, which doesn't have to be trauma, but trauma bonds for some reason. Well, we know why, but like you can now come into another experiance and just like have this experience with.
So you're saying coming to the gym is traumatic?
No, it's not at all. Well, it depends.
I mean,
depends on what gym you're going to.
Yeah, if I go from a jiu-jitsu class over here to a thrust test, they're both traumatic. Like getting choked and then probably working till you throw up.
I don't make people throw up anymore.
I would say that's an old James.
That's old James. New James is much nicer. Gentle James, as we call him.
My one, I remember at the old box I used to go to was the Prout. That was my button. Push that one direction and I was done. Like, but when we look at the different things that we have to offer, what we're building, primarily with the outdoor program and what we want to do with the fitness program, is how do we integrate people into a new community and something that they like. Now they're not depending on another veteran to be that person for them. Now they can build commonalities with other people, whether that's through the fitness or through martial arts or going outdoors. And that's like kind of the subtle thing that I've been trying to do, because it's really great when instead of, and I'm not saying these conversations happen all the time, but when you hear them, they're like, oh, I'm just different. I've been through different things, and which is true.
Yeah.
But like,
everybody's been through something.
You gotta get along with your neighbors at some point, right? Yeah. So, and I'm not saying that people don't, but like sometimes we just shy away from that conversation because we don't have this shared thing. You worked corporate. I did 8 years in the military and deployed and did all these other things, but eventually you have to come home, you know, and you can still have the weird conversations because our guys do, but and you don't have to freak out your neighbors with them, but
Well, I think it's honestly, I really do
get along.
I love the outdoor stuff. I love because really what you're doing is you're creating environments for people to build relationships, right? And honestly, if people are going to be open, if they're going to be able to talk about the stuff they're dealing with or whatever, the more comfortable they are with you in relationship, the more open they're going to be.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I cannot tell you how many times we've been on runs, with over the years, and people have just like bleh, it just comes out, right? I'm dealing with this, or I'm struggling with this, or this, that, and the other. When we're at the gym, we're working out. I mean, it's a running joke, but in my run coaching, at least once a month, I have somebody cry in an appointment.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
At least once a month. And it's not like I'm not training them to cry. Yeah. I'm not like beating them up. We're sitting down talking, having a conversation.
He literally could say one thing and it's just like,
and
bam.
Then the tears just start coming. And I'm like, no. So
I mean, ready to go here yet now.
But he's gotten to where he handles it, where he just like grabs the box, he's like slides it over, just silently is like, here you go.
So, but the only reason that kind of stuff can happen is because you develop relationships and people's walls can kind of come down and they feel comfortable, right? And I think that's especially for like veterans and first responders dealing with stuff that they feel people maybe can't relate to or understand. think that's really important.
I think you can just build cross trust just by doing hard things or fun things together. That was the other thing I've gotten a few times. It's not the totality, but it's like, oh, well, you're dealing with these guys that may or may not have mental health problems or be struggling somewhere, and there they are catching a 6-foot shark with a big old smile on their face. I was like, who said it has to be like tear, like
right.
Like,
it's okay. Life can be fun.
Life can be fun.
You can have permission to enjoy life.
Feeling can be fun.
Yeah,
You don't have to. Yeah, that was fun. That was a distinct. I remember it was in a chat group, and somebody's like, "But these guys are all having fun." I was like, "Yeah, we are." Like, did you see that shark we hooked? Like, it was great. Like, you got to put your hand on the snout, like take the shot, and then throw it back in the water. Drag it back in the water, and build a good experience with some other folks that were there, or we could be out in the middle of Colorado, just on probably the most scenic pass you've ever been on, and just enjoy life with other people. And I think one phrase we've been using a lot more recently is it's to have a life worth living. And I think by doing those experiences and connecting to people, it just you just keep tagging meaning to the things that you do, because I think that's another sub level is people who leave the service or they've experienced something, and like sometimes the meaning to things have shifted, changed, maybe aren't existent, and their purpose kind of feels like it is non-existent. So can we build that in recreational activities? And I believe we can. We've proven it. I know we've proved it, but how do we just keep pushing that out and doing that and building upon those relationships for people to do those things? That's been super important, not just to me, but I think everybody who's come through the organization, they have the opportunity to kind of try something different. Like, oh, hey, I'm actually doing something instead of sitting at home on the weekend and complaining. I'm, getting up. I wish we could do something every weekend and offer something to everybody. It's just it takes
a lot of organization.
Yeah, it is. I ran all the trips one year on my own. I led them. And that, I didn't want to get burnt out on the thing that I loved. So we brought more volunteers in to kind of offset my time. And now I truly get to enjoy the ones that I go on, because I do put them all together, but I don't run them all. So that's because that's one thing when you're doing it and you're a provider, right? You guys, sometimes it's kind of like, man, like I just want to like sit for once and enjoy it. Like, you run this thing. And yeah, just kind of coming back to that, I need to feed off the thing that we provide as well. So sometimes I take a back seat and I'll go take off with the family or something, or let somebody else kind of run the show, and I'll just be around. But I really do think that those are the things that we, at least in our areas, there's other areas to serve, but that we need, and we can do really well, or we do really well.
Well, and I think
we do really well.
y'all do really well.
Yeah, we do really good.
I think one thing that's also, what's really special about what y'all are doing is trying to integrate like veterans back into society. Like again, people who can't relate to what they've been through. And I can speak on this from a pretty personal space. Is like, I know in the military, you're kind of trained you can't be vulnerable. Like it can be very dangerous at certain times.
It can be,
So you kind of have to just have your awareness up, and like certain people I think have a hard time, veterans can have a hard time letting go of that from things I've experienced. So I think that's something that can be really hard for them to transition to, is being able to trust and be vulnerable to their society and the people around them. So integrating them with other people and trying to build those connections, I think is can be a really life-saving thing.
It can be. Oh man, the vulnerable word is like sometimes super hard. Like sometimes there's no go in the house because I'm like, I don't want to do that right now. But yes, it is. And we've seen lately, what's been really nice is years later, right? So I was in the Marine Corps and I went in tail end of 2004. Let's just call it 2005. It's like November, December. And I did two deployments, and what we saw then, one to Iraq and the other one to Afghanistan. And then I left in 2012 and didn't really start doing anything with veterans until a couple of years later, as I was experiencing things on my own. And then I was like, oh, I want to volunteer and get back. Those are the groups that were like, really like, hey man, what's going on? Like, you doing all right? And you're like, I'm fine. And they're like, are you really fine? Those kind of deals. And what I found was that, you can do those things outside, and people that can draw you to that. And you do feel more comfortable with people who are like, now that they're out of the system, like, who's going to tell you no, right? Because let's face it, when you're inside the system, and it's changing now, I think for the good, whatever anybody else's opinion is, but you see a lot more with like the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps coming out. I don't even know the guy's name anymore. I don't really keep up, but I see it on Instagram or I see it on Facebook or on social media where they're talking about the hardships of people in the military now because they're like, oh, hey, we kind of messed up the past couple decades, so maybe we need to fix it now. But the problem is you got this whole like era of veterans that
they're salty about it.
Yeah,
that's an understatement. I'd say
could be salty, but like, oh well, hey, not in my Marine Corps. You see in the comments like, dude, you've been out for a decade. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. But it's nice to see it going that direction. I don't think it'll make it any less effective, as a fighting force. Because let's face it, Marine Corps is like the greatest fighting force in the history of everything. Anyway, let's move on.
So neither one of us were in the service, so neither one of us are going to argue with you whatsoever.
So whoever listens to this, there will be an argument in the comments.
I did have a guy actually one time. He was out on the obstacle course, and I went out there to let him know, hey man, we gotta have waivers and stuff. We do classes.
Yeah.
And he starts yelling at me like, "Were you in the service?" And I was like, "No." He's like, then he just like proceeded to cuss me out because he didn't. I think he was a homeless guy, so he had some. I think he had some mental issues or what have you. But he was in the Marine Corps.
So wait, were you Marine? Were you Marine?
Yeah, I was Marine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why he's saying it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best thing since sliced bread. So how does your partner, who was in the Air Force, how does he like? Does he agree with you?
So what's really funny? So there's two of us. We used to have like a couple Joes and a couple Kyles. Now there's just one Joe and two Kyles and a couple other people. We have that are like the core of the board and staff. So he's in the Air Force. I don't know if I could say this out loud, but he's like, it's kind of more like a vacation because like it's the Air Force and you get good food or whatever else. I don't think he'll argue with me, or he'll just be like, yeah, you say what you want.
He's that's exactly what a Marine Corps would Marine Corps soldier would say. Yeah.
But the other funny thing is we're the opposites too, because I ended up going to A&M and he went to that other school.
UT?
What school?
Okay, there.
Who?
We figured it out.
Yeah.
Man, so, like, you guys how are y'all in business together? How are y'all doing this? How are y'all helping people together?
The great thing is like, I think everybody in our organization kind of has this like opposite deal. So you're covering different spectrums. And I found out, in a previous career to this is that, you have to have a lot of people that can dissent on different angles. Otherwise, you're all going to say yes, and then you're going to go barrel down this thing. And you're like, oh, we didn't see any obstacles coming.
Yeah, kind of like we all have a podcast, and we butt heads literally 24/7.
Actually, that's what I keep trying to tell them. Like they never see things the way I see them, right? And obviously, my wisdom is
and he's like, y'all just don't understand how right I am, and one day you will look back and understand.
But the reason I keep them around is because they have a different point of view. They see things differently. They have different ideas than I do, and sometimes I think it corrects me. It helps me. Sometimes it just pisses me off, though, to be honest with you.
That happens. I mean, you get it. And I'll get a text message, hey, sorry to be this guy. And I'm like, no, I need that. Like, you don't have to feel sorry. Like, I might not agree with your assessment of the situation because I really want to do this and you're trying to pull the reins back. But then, like, we need to pull the reins back. And sometimes we like to move fast and just do something to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then sometimes like we have to just say, yeah, you're right. That was too fast of a decision to make at the organization. We're experiencing some of that right now, which is fine. Like we need to have those conversations. Otherwise you're going to make a rash decision on either something technical or something, that has to do with funding. And we might not have it figured out yet. So it's kind of great to have these like opposite people that are in, that can do that. And we even asked that of the volunteers too. People who volunteer, we call them ambassadors, is that, hey, come up with your game plan. Like, let me know what you want to do. I'll tell you if it doesn't go with our line of thinking, but, and you're going to hear feedback, but it's not anything against you. It's just, we're figuring things out and we have these conversations. So we don't run into problems again with this down the line. I'd rather hit it off at the pass than I would, have somebody, kind of go about it sloppily. That's sloppily isn't the best word.
Haphazardly, maybe.
Yeah, haphazardly. And so we just kind of, see if the holes in the Swiss cheese align. We see if there's any problems that are coming up just by asking questions. And then generally it's just, hey, go do your thing. The thing I really like is like when it's time to execute, you let people do their thing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we looked at the plan. We looked at everything that's going on in the organization. How does it fit to our mission? How does it fit to our vision? Like our purpose of what we're trying to do. As long as you keep the culture, like we're good, but along the lines, while that's kind of going off, we will actually, have some dissent like, hey man, I don't think you should go here. But when it comes time to execute, you let people do their thing and they usually succeed. Like it's just, you've got to look at what's going on and see, like, make sure the plan lines up. Other than that, we're not trying to hold anybody back. I love it when volunteers step up and make something of their own. Cause that's one thing I loved working with other organizations is we're like, hey, we don't pay you anything, but we're putting you in charge, or you're responsible for holding our culture and doing what we do, whichever organization it was. And I felt really good when I did that, and I wanted to replicate that with the people who volunteer with us too. And we do, for the most part. I think they'll give me feedback if they watch this. Be like, hey, what's this guy saying? Are you sure about no? You
can get a lot of notes after this.
Yeah, we'll be.
Well, that's awesome. So, so it sounds like you guys are crushing it as far as like the social aspect, even the mental aspect. So you mentioned that, I guess, on the physical side of things, you want to keep working on that. Where do you feel like you're lacking, or what do you feel the biggest struggle with the whole physical side of things is?
So the one thing I really wanted to do, nothing has to be free, right? But what I want to do is reduce barriers to people making a decision.
Okay.
And the decision to step foot into a gym, especially boutique gyms, like we know they're a little bit more sometimes, right? Well, it just depends. I mean, like if you go to, this is like, when did I start CrossFit the first time? I got the Marine Corps in 2012. So 2012, I started there and I was paying $100-something a month. Yeah. It is what it is. You only have a limited number of members and people got to keep the doors open and you need a place to work out. But if I was working in the oil field at the time, so it was an easy decision because the oil field was booming. That was a good time. But some other guys might be in transition and they might be in a program somewhere. So they might be working with another organization and they're on limited income. They might be on their VA benefits, which, could range from $100 a month to substantially more, but they've got to work with what they got to work with. Well, now you got to cut out things. And anybody been poor before? Yeah. Right. So me too.
Were you waiting on them or us?
Wait, I was like, is it appropriate for me to raise my hand right now?
She's like, well,
or you're
been poor and poor.
So like you cut out. Do you want the now? Like no. But what are the things you cut out? Like you start eating a lot worse.
Fun.
Like fun. Yeah.
Fun goes out the window.
But the things I've watched, just off of money alone. Well, let's not even talk about physical injury. That's a whole nother can of worms. But let's go into that aspect. It's like, okay, well, I can afford the what is that, $19 a month, like Fitness Connection.
Fitness Connection.
Like, what's the percentage of their people, their members that actually go to the gym?
Yeah, it's like
10%.
Yeah. Plus they have like I saw a thing the other day.
I'm pretty sure they're only going to midnight.
Said, like no overhead presses, shoulder presses, no snatching, no whatever. So I guess things that could hurt you.
I can't because of the shoulder.
They probably don't have the insurance to cover it.
A list of 4 movements at the front that says
20 people last week just dropped.
You were not allowed to do these movements. It was so funny. I was like, oh my God. Well, that's what you get for $19 a month or $10 a month.
Well, and when you pay a little bit more, or at least you have somebody that's smaller that knows you by name when you come in. So like most, if not all, the people who come to your gym. You have a personal touch to that, and a lot of times they're going to go the extra mile outside of that to even text you. Like Jimmy from Global Martial Arts, they're a sponsor of the organization. Like, hey, you come into class today? It'll be like 11 something. I'm just missed, and I have totally forgot because my 2 days I go are Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon. I'll get a text message. Where else do you get that? Yeah, like you don't. So how can we replicate that with what we do?
Yeah.
And what we want to do is offer them to have the opportunity to go to these places. And before we were trying to get them to pick the place and then try to work the deal. That didn't work out so well. So now what we're trying to do is get out in the community and get connections into those places
other gyms.
And say, hey, look, I'm not looking for you to pay or for them to come for free. They'll offset some of the costs. I mean, obviously we can't afford $100 a month, but can you work with us and maybe tell me what your zero is? Where do you break even? And can you work with us on that? A lot of places I believe will say that. Again, I don't believe in free. Like we're not going to the business side of nonprofits, but a lot of them will try to survive off of free, right? It's not the society we work in. We have trades of goods and services for that. So we're willing to do that. And we have sponsors and donors that want to see this happen. They're giving you money to do something with it. Well, now we're going to go invest in somebody's physical health, right?
Sure.
So that's what we really want to do. So if we can get them started into, a jiu-jitsu program would be great. A CrossFit type workout. We won't say that word, but like HYROX, right?
Sure.
To train for that or give them something to train for. So Mercedes and I and Alan, who's one of our guys.
She's been telling me about the meetings. I'm super excited. We chat literally every day.
I didn't bring a shirt for you. Sorry. I should have thought I didn't know you were going to be here. You got one.
I love what? I love free.
By, right?
I love free stuff.
You live close by. I'll throw you a shirt, blue or green. You just let me know. And then, but meeting over that and like, how can we get them to work towards something now? And then also, do they need to do a group workout with Project Zero athletes, or they don't? Like, let them go be home in their gym. Just tell them what they're like, what opportunity you've been afforded. And maybe we get that going until they're back stable enough. Like, we can't do it indefinitely. I'll put it that way. That's really hard. But how can we get somebody into it where they start to make it a habit, and then they have a little bit of skin in the game, and then eventually they start taking over the payments, a year down the road, and then they're onto a full paying student, or maybe they're still in a discount. I don't know what that looks like in the future, but what I know right now, the way that's the way I would run it. But instead of trying to like be like, hey, this person really wants to go to your gym. Now we could say, hey, we have 2 spots open at ABC fitness company, or we're missing without the A, BC. No, I'm kidding. BC Fitness. But we have a place open here, and here's 3 spots that I can afford to have these guys come through.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really trying to do there. We just need them to be accountable to the organization.
Yeah.
And to show what opportunity they've been afforded. And we're just doing that through our relationships. We won't manage them as much as, paying for them and just checking in with them from time to time, but we want them to kind of, I've never wanted an organization that's been like, oh, these are my people and my veterans. I want them to go out in the community and flourish.
Sure.
So we just want to provide the opportunities. That's all we want to do. Like, I don't want to say, hey, you have to only do Project Zero Overland events. Like, you want to go on, you met so-and-so and go, and you text me, is it okay? I'm like, I'm not your dad. Like, just
you're an adult.
You're an adult. We just provide, events throughout the year that provide that opportunity for that. And so that's what we really want to do with the fitness side, is we want to find places that we can partner with, and we want for them to work towards. And I think them doing like one of the like either like the sprints, or I'm not 100%. Don't kill me on this. I'm not 100% on all of that. Like, there's a lot of information to cover when we went to lunch. But we can say, hey, here's a date. We'd love to sponsor 20 guys to go to that one.
Yeah.
And you've been in our program for a while. In this particular one, which is towards doing the HYROX event, you've earned it. Now we can send you off that way and show us what you're made of. Show us how far you've come, or, and they don't have to feel embarrassed about it. But it starts with them being able to access that at low to no cost. And that's my goal, is just to make the decision super easy. Like, man, I really need to go in, but man, this gym is super expensive. I'm poor. I'm broke. I'm kind of hurting somewhere else. Hey man, what if we can cover that for you and introduce you to a place you can go? Like, we can cut the middleman, like the decision-making process out. You just got to get there. Do
you think that certain people would be also more willing if they knew other veterans or other first responders are there?
Yeah, I think they would. If we give them a T-shirt with our name on it, so they can identify each other. They're like, "Oh, you're a guy now." But I think they would, and they know that the place is supportive. So we have like a banner you can hang in the thing. I mean, there's one in Global Martial Arts over there. It only says our name and it has a picture on there, but like, oh, hey, this place is supportive, or people can ask the question, what is that? I think they would be, they'd be more adapt at some place to say, hey, we're supportive of this, and when there's multiple locations that accept that, I'm not saying we can fill them all tomorrow, but we can get there. And the more that options that we have, the more we can put that out in the community. The struggle is when we're such a small organization, we're doing really well. Like, but we're also small. So it's like me doing most everything full time with a handful of volunteers and active board members. Like, our board members are actively working, their full-time jobs to then help keep the organization going. But the more people we have that are fans and champions of what we're doing, our partners, I guess we can call them partners. Is that a good word?
I'd say so.
The easier it makes it to connect people and to figure things out, to bring in new sponsors and donors. So let's face it, like, the mission is a mission. We're always going to serve people, but we also got to keep it going. So, and
it's not free, right? It takes time, it takes money, it takes resources, right?
It is. So all of that would help really grow that. And that's been super important. Like, all 3 of these areas have been super important to me, personally, and even the other guys in the program. So it's not, I'm speaking from my experience building the thing that you were missing. That's really where I see it going, because I would have loved to have an option where I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't afford this right now. I don't know if it's worth it. Or even guys that are struggling physically for a while, been there. There's a place that they can go that they're supportive, because they're already probably spending money on rehab. They're probably already spending money on PT, $50 a week or something like that.
It's really expensive. And if you have to go through VA, oh my gosh.
Yeah. We won't go into that one. There's different opinions on that. There's some great locations and there's great people that work there. To sometimes work in a system is very difficult. That's as far as I'll go on that one,
fair enough. Fair enough.
Gotta put a sub podcast on there. They're like, hey, today, but what if you just had another option that was open to you? I'm not saying don't use what's available from the VA or the government. Use it. Like, what we're saying is there's a big tiff that was going on. I won't go into it, but there's a guy, his handle, his Instagram is Veteran with a Sign. You should look him up. I don't know him personally, but he's a Marine veteran. And he's got a way bigger audience than I do because that's not my jam. But it resonated with me. All we want is more choices. That's it. Like, I don't want you to funnel me and say, you have to do less. Like, there needs to be more that's out there. One thing that he has said that really resonated with me is like, we need to stop, whether it's 1 or 100, people taking their lives in the parking lot of the VA or other facilities like that because they're so limited in their ability.
Yeah.
What we need is like, we have organizations that are providing things that are on the table and they're funded appropriately. We're just opening up the options so you don't have to feel lost. Now, okay, we might get a little overwhelmed because there are a bunch of organizations, but spin the wheel, and that's the thing you want. Like, it exists.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we've tried to build personally, and that's what this is about. It's always been about giving you choice and giving you options and making it super easy to make that decision. Like, oh, hey, I want to go surf fishing in July. Cool. That's what we're doing. We're going down to Padre for 4 days, and we're going to go hopefully catch something big.
I don't think this is real wood.
That might not be the one to knock on.
Yeah, this is one right here.
That was that's your better bet.
Haven't gone skunk yet, and don't plan on doing that. But we have something out there for you. Again, I wish I could have it every weekend. We'll get there at some point. But same thing with the fitness side. Like, there is something out there for you. If you live in a city of Houston, we can start in Houston. If you live in the city of Houston, there's this many locations with this many seats. And this is what you can do. Yeah. And that's really what we're trying to build on that.
I like it, man. Yeah. I like it. So then obviously you are supported by what? Like, who supports you? Where do you get what support? I mean, you're 501c3, right? So you're nonprofit.
501c3. So we have individual donors. Yep. We have corporate donors and partners and sponsors. We have grants that we've gotten. Disabled Veteran National Foundation is a grant that supports our outdoor program. We've also been supported by Veteran United Foundation. So they get the employees at Veterans United. They have their foundation. They get to contribute to that and decide where money goes to. We're on our third recipient of that grant. Houston Police Officers Union has supported us for the past, how long have we been around? 4 years. Like, I said, hey, I want to help first responders, and we're getting there. That's a very hard market to crack into, and you guys know it. But we're getting there, and we're getting more of them coming along too. And they've been super supportive of us by it's not a grant, donating to us, from to the charitable causes they give to. Man, who else do we have? Wise Capital Partners, that's a financial advisor. Local companies that have, give us gifts more than, just $1 here or there. Yeah. So we pride ourselves in being more privately funded. We don't go for government grants. It's one that's just super complicated. I think you have to have like your own degree in that, but we're privately funded. And so a lot of that is ran off the events that we do. Yeah. And the events that we're going to run. And of course, just people wanting to just sponsor the organization without anything else, like no strings attached. We do have corporate sponsor levels. They get something back for that because that means they've thrown a lot of weight at us, $5, $10, $15,000. We also have smaller stuff. Like, you can say, hey, here's $1,000 to run a fishing event for the weekend. Just give me a shout out. Like, okay, easy enough, and that's how we typically run.
So if somebody wanted to support you, like, how can they do it? What would be the best way to do it?
Yeah, easy. You just go to projzero.com and you click donate. And then you donate. Now,
and you just add a bunch of zeros to the whatever number you put in front.
1000000. Yeah. You can do that. You can become a corporate partner with us, and a corporate partner is great. That would be something you would have to email us, and you can email us on the website. It's info@projzero.com. And you can go in there and say, I'd love to explore what a corporate partner looks like, what levels you have. You get some perks with that too. So you get tickets to the event that we have coming up. You get tickets to, let's see, we have the clay shoot we're still working on at some time this year. We get tickets to golf. Hopefully we have our gala in 2025. That isn't in stone, but we're getting there. And then, there's about 4 or 5 fundraising events we do a year that you have access to. Okay. And you get your name in lights, not really lights, in a banner. And you get on our website. We would promote the organization at least twice a month. Like, hey, we want it to be known that you're helping us. And the return is very, it's a good exchange. Like, you get an opportunity to come out and play a round of golf for 2 or 3 teams, bring your clients out. It's really great for them to be able to interact with the organization and, have a means for an outlet for themselves as well. A couple of our corporate partners, they use the opportunity for golf to like bring clients out, introduce them to the organization. Thank you. Yeah. And they get to work on business while it's just mutually beneficial. It's really great. And yeah, that's typically how we run that. So those are the avenues. We have some sales from time to time. Like eventually you'll be able to buy these nifty hats. You can get a closer view later, but it's like you see it actually, like how
it's all Project Zeroed out.
Yeah. Well, it's got
it's got all the topo on there.
Yeah, the topograph.
You see it? Yeah. And then I need a haircut. Oh my goodness. And some dye. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. And my kid's like, why are your hair that color now? I'm like, well, because of you. No. We'll have some shirts. You can support us through. There's another veteran-owned organization that prints most of our shirts. Yeah. You can buy them through them. What else do we have? There's just a bunch of different ways. If you come out on Memorial Day, you might be able to buy some cool stuff too. So learn how you can become a sponsor or learn how you can get involved elsewhere. We're not a big volunteering organization because of what we do. Although we could use some help probably on Memorial Day, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for sure.
But, you're not going to find yourself like with 30 volunteers going out on an outdoor trip. Or mental health either. Like that's professionals that we pay for that service, or even the fitness too, unless you've tried to get a group thing going at one point in time. But typically we run off of the donations and sales and partnerships. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, first of all, I think what you're doing is awesome, man. I really appreciate it. It's like, I'm all behind you, whatever you're doing. I have several friends, what have you, that served in the military. A particular friend of mine just retired from the Marine Corps.
Oh, really?
Actually. We were really close friends. So we've kept in contact over the years, but his journey's been crazy, right? Just from Japan to Afghanistan to Iraq to Washington to Virginia. He's been all over the place. And so his carting his family everywhere around with him. So, but yeah, I think more than anything, it's important that we take care of one another. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Especially those who have done their best to take care of us. Yeah. Right. So, in whatever capacity that looks like. And so if your thing is, you're a doctor or you have some sort of skill set, right? How can you serve in that capacity? Absolutely. Right. If you have an experience, right. Because you've gone through it and you've come out of it. Right. You can kind of help support somebody and lead them. I think that's awesome. So, man, I'm definitely, you can put us on the list, right? So we'll definitely work with you for sure and support you guys, as far as like on the physical side. So I'd love to help you get that. Like firing on all cylinders.
Once we get through this mayhem of getting put an event together, if you haven't done it, we know this. It's a lot. It
is. And
when you have other things rolling, and I call it mayhem, it's a lot of fun. It's the most stressful fun that you have. But once we get on the other side of Memorial Day, and being able to, I will say one thing about this, and I've stressed this. It just came up recently. People there's Veterans Day and Memorial Day, and there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
Veterans Day are people who've served and are still around. Memorial Day are the people that we've lost.
Yeah.
The one thing that sometimes we get around Memorial Day, and I have to put this out because it's like, oh, this should be a sad day event. Like you should, if you've ever lost anybody, whether that's on deployment or afterwards, somebody who's decided not to be here anymore. Like, do you want to? I want to remember them the way they were.
Sure.
And I know, I could tell you at least the handful of guys that I know, like they want you to live your best life, and so it's unfortunate in the way that it ended up, but if we can have a moment of silence, but then we can also get a little rowdy by, going out and having some voluntary discomfort for a little while, and having a good time and celebrating that. And that's what I really like to get at, is the fact that, we have the remembrance and do that. And I that's something we do honor. And I believe we'll have a moment of silence somewhere in our activity. But, after that, it's like, live how you wanted to remember them. And I think most of them, the guys that I know personally, they would always want you to have a good time.
Well, I think even more so than that, and this may be just me, but I think the important thing about that is, and part of honoring them, if you can do something like what we're going to be doing, the whole point is to, yes, we're going to have a good time, we're going to get fit, we're going to work out all the good stuff, but we're also, using this as a fundraiser, right? Yeah. So we're raising funds, to support Project Zero. Yeah. Well, what you guys are doing are working with people, and helping them. Yep. Right. And maybe you reach one person that doesn't make that same decision that some of those other people made.
That's been the whole thing. Everybody's like, why Project Zero? And I'm like, it's like one of those overarching goals. And there's been other organizations with that are out there. I said, but it was the easiest. When I thought, I don't think we had another name. We just had some iteration of this, and I was like, you know what? Because we can do our best to achieve that. Is it possible? Yes. Does it sometimes feel like it can't happen? I'll tell you what, it does, because like every time you read something, but at least it gives you like something to shoot for.
Yeah.
Like it's that long off distance is like the never ending race. And that's and it stands for a lot of things, for the guys that we've lost, whether that's, people that we know from the community, right? They've lost friends after service or in service. And for those that we're working to help in the way that we help them.
Yeah.
So it just kind of became that, I don't know, it just kind of rolled off the tongue at some point in time, and now it's just stuck.
Yeah.
And it makes cool logos too. I don't know. Like, wait till you see the
cool
shirts.
on a shirt.
It looks
on
cool on a shirt. Yeah, it does. So no, it really does. It kind of sticks out, and to me personally, when I just think about it, I'm like, all right, at least, because I'll tell you what, I know we're trying to wrap up, but there's some like tough day, and they've been recent, like super tough days. Like, man, I can't do this. Like, I can't. And then you're like, okay, well, you know what? We just took these group of guys out. They had a really good time. The feedback was like, oh man, I really needed a break. I'm glad I got to connect to other people. And they're like, okay, take a breath. We're good. Like, we're on the right path. But anything that you've done, if you've ever done anything and started anything, it is super difficult. And I think you need something to grasp onto, and sometimes a break too. Like, I have to take a breath. I don't know about you, but but remind ourselves like why we got into it. It is super important. Like that's as far as I can get with that.
It's all right.
It can get tough. So
no, it's good. So Kyle, first of all, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. And you guys make sure that if you haven't done so, if you're interested, whether you're interested or not, you need to come be a part. Whether you volunteer, whether you just come watch, you come spectate if you want to, and I guarantee you'll get FOMO. Or whether you're going to compete, right? So you can just go to bcfit.com. We have a link there where you can go and sign up. You can also go to Project Zero. They have a list of events where you can go. You can check out our Instagram page. You can check out their Instagram page.
It's everywhere. We've made it very accessible to find the link.
Yeah, you should not have a problem finding it.
And if for whatever reason,
just message me.
I would say message me or James, and we will send it to you with a face.
So, but there's still time to sign up. You've still got not much. We still got a little bit of time to sign up. So sign up. Have a great time. If you don't want to do it by yourself, because maybe you're a little bit scared, maybe intimidated, get a partner. It cuts the workout pretty much in half, right?
Yeah. They all got to run though, right?
Everyone's doing a run.
Everybody's got to run.
Yes. I put it in gold. Did you notice when I did it?
Yeah. So everybody's got to run. Yeah.
And I would say if your kid's doing it, you got to do it too.
Exactly. Right.
If your kid can do it, you can do it.
So the kids is going to be fun too. It should be fun. We'll see. How bad they make the adults look, but we're gonna have a good time. So it's gonna be a great event. So remember, Memorial Day, Monday the 27th, right?
8 a.m. to 11 p.m.
We'll be there at 8 a.m.
to 11 a.m.
We're also gonna have waves, so we'll send out start times and all that good stuff, so you guys will know about that. But I would just say, come enjoy. It's like 3 hours, right? 4 hours tops.
3 hours of your day.
It's like that's nothing of your day, right? Then you go home, barbecue, do whatever you're gonna do, and have earned.
Yeah.
Earned that meal,
earned that barbecue,
right? And then I think more than anything else, right? More than one of the things you mentioned it, right, is like sometimes you can get overwhelmed with like when you start things, right? But you remember why you got into it, right? So the whole reason that why I started BC Fitness, why I do this podcast, why we do what we do, is to help people, right? Yeah. To serve the community, and to really get people to. We say, that's how we sign off: change your mind, change your life, right? And so, because so much starts between the ears, and if you can make those simple changes, there's so much happens in your life, right? And you can the quality of life, right? The relationships, the lives you affect and mend, right? Yeah. And can build, right? It's so much better than isolating, than leaving and, kind of just doing this thing alone. So I think we're all better together than we ever were apart. 100%. So this is a great opportunity for you guys to be a part of that, to come hook up, have a good time. We're going to have a lot of fun. And then, we'll do other things like this in the future. And obviously they've got Project Zero, it's got all kinds of stuff. So if you're a veteran, if you're a first responder, right, I would suggest, get connected with these guys.
Check out what we got to offer.
And they're good guys. Kyle does like to talk. So he'll do most of the talking when you're there. You can just sit there and listen, right? So no pressure, guys. No pressure.
You just show up.
I'm a good listener. I was just born with a gift.
The gift of gab.
The gift of gab.
Hey, I'm on your side. Yeah. I mean, I got the same problem.
What did you go kiss the Blarney Stone? He must have kissed the Blarney Stone. Wasn't that what it was? You got the gift of gab.
Stone. It was in Ireland.
It's in Ireland.
So they wouldn't know. So,
no.
I know the Blarney Stone. I just haven't been to Ireland.
Yeah. So, but either way. So, guys, thanks for coming in. Remember, if you haven't done so already, you can obviously become a member of the show by going to Patreon /runningwithjames.com. You can also obviously subscribe to the show on YouTube. If you're watching this right now, then you're watching it on YouTube, so so make sure you hit that little button. Subscribe button, right? Hit the little bell button and then share it too. Because if you're not sharing, do you really care?
It costs absolutely nothing.
That is true.
Share any. That's what I love about social media and people press that. It costs you absolutely nothing.
It doesn't. And you have no idea the impact it makes, honestly, how it helps to grow the community and really help the show out. So if you're enjoying what we do, if you enjoy the content, or let me put it this way, if you enjoy the majority of our content, I had someone the other day, so like they sent me a message. They're like, "Do y'all ever talk about running?" He's like, and I was like,
we do get a good little rant in at the beginning.
Sometimes these two
rant about running?
Don't even just say these two.
Y'all get on these like high horses and these like
don't even like you don't
like tirades and stuff.
You literally spent 2 episodes on one rant.
I got to bring them back.
You literally spent 2 episodes on a whole rant.
But it's the Running with James,
so he can do whatever he wants.
That means I have
power.
We talked about that earlier.
Whatever we want. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So guys, thanks for coming in. Thanks for Kyle for being here.
Yes,
we
thank you,
appreciate it.
Kyle.
We had a lot of fun. Lauren, thank you for holding down Rocky's job.
Rocky, you have permanent job here because this was so stressful to push these 2 buttons.
She was stressed out from the moment we were trying to set this stuff up. So guys, thanks for coming in. We appreciate you. Remember, when you change your mind,
you change your life.
Peace.
Bye.